Right now, as I speak to you on this Saturday, February the 7th, 2026, millions of Americans across the Northeast are waking up to some of the most punishing cold this country has seen in years. Wind chills are plunging to 30 and 40 below zero in parts of New England and upstate New York. Frostbite can develop on exposed skin in a matter of minutes. High wind warnings and extreme cold warnings stretch from the mid-Atlantic through Maine. And if you think this is the worst of it, I need you to understand something. We are only at the beginning of a 10-day stretch that could define this entire winter. Between now and February the 16th, we are going to see brutal Arctic air locking down the east, a jaw-dropping warm-up across the plains that could shatter records by 30 to 40 degrees, and a potentially significant storm system taking aim right around Valentine's Day. This winter already proved it means business when January's devastating storm killed nearly 80 people across 16 states, buried the Carolinas under historic snow, knocked out power to over 1 million homes, and dropped temperatures so far south that NASA delayed a moon launch because of Arctic air reaching the Space Coast. Now, February is picking up right where January left off. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Let me walk you through what is happening right now. A powerful Arctic front blasted through the Great Lakes and Northeast overnight, bringing reinforcing cold that is absolutely bone-chilling. State College, Pennsylvania, is in the middle of its coldest 8-day stretch since January of 1893. That is cold not matched in over 130 years. New York City has a wind chill warning in effect for the first time since 2004. Warming shelters are open across Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. This is serious, dangerous cold sitting right on top of the most densely populated corridor in the country. Now, let me break this down region by region, so you know exactly what your city is facing over the next 10 days. The Northeast and New England are ground zero for the most extreme conditions this weekend. New York City is dealing with northwest wind gusts up to 30 mph on top of temperatures struggling to get out of the teens. Wind chills across the 5 boroughs will hover between 10 and 20 below zero through Sunday morning. Central Park has only recorded 3 in of snow this winter, but forecasters say the city has potential for another 15 in through the rest of the season. And February is historically when New York gets its biggest storms. Temperatures climb back toward the low 30s by Monday and into the 40s by Wednesday. But keep your eye on Valentine's Day. Both the European and American ensemble models are flagging elevated snow chances for the interior Northeast around February 14th and 15th. With probabilities of at least 4 in exceeding 40% across New England. Boston is locked in a brutal deep freeze. Sub-zero actual temperatures are expected Sunday morning with wind chills approaching 25 to 30 below zero. The city has picked up more than 15 in above normal snowfall this season. Some January storm totals were staggering. Worcester got 17, 5 inches in a single day on January 25th. Boston itself got 16. 7. Hartford picked up 15. 6. The cold eases into next week with highs climbing into the 30s and eventually the 40s by midweek. But the Valentine's Day storm window is particularly threatening for New England, where a lee cyclone off the coast could deliver another significant snow event. Philadelphia saw snow squalls and about an inch overnight, with dangerous wind gusts and wind chills 10 to 20 below zero. The city is still dealing with compacted snow and ice from January's historic 9.3 in single-day storm. Philly warms into the low 30s Monday and mid-40s by Wednesday. But the Valentine's Day weekend bears watching for mixed precipitation. Washington, D.C. has a high wind warning with gusts approaching 50 mph. Snow is likely today with light accumulations possible. February is historically DC's snowiest month, with forecasters tracking 3 to 7 INs as a reasonable monthly total. Temperatures recover to the low 30s. Monday, climbing to near 43 by Wednesday, before rain chances increase. Albany and upstate New York are experiencing some of the most extreme conditions in the entire country right now. Wind chills are approaching 40 below zero through Sunday morning, which is genuinely life-threatening. Lake effect snow bands have been relentless off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, and the Tug Hill Plateau is getting hammered with some of the highest totals anywhere in the country. Buffalo and Syracuse remain under persistent snow bands, and another 2 to 5 INs of accumulation are possible over the coming days, on top of what has already been a remarkably active season. Vermont and New Hampshire are also deep in the freezer, with wind chills across the Green and White Mountains approaching 30 below zero. The Midwest and Great Lakes have been in the crosshairs of clipper after clipper. Chicago is cold with wind chills in the teens below zero. But the big story is what happens next week. Temperatures rebound sharply by midweek, potentially reaching the 40s, and approaching 50 by Thursday as warm air surges east from the plains. Another clipper could bring light snow early next week before the warm-up takes hold, and then the Valentine's Day system becomes the next question, with precipitation chances returning by the end of the period. Detroit is catching it from multiple angles, with lake effect snow off both Lake Huron and Lake Erie, piling up 2 to 4 more inches through the weekend. Wind chills are well below zero. Relief arrives by midweek, but Detroit has been one of the hardest-hit cities this winter. Minneapolis is sitting in dangerously cold air with wind chills near 25 to 30 below. An Alberta clipper is spreading wintry precipitation across the northern plains today. But the Twin Cities are about to experience one of the most dramatic swings anywhere in the country. By Tuesday, that massive ridge pushes temperatures 30 to 40 degrees above normal, with highs potentially flirting with the 50s. That is a swing of roughly 70 deg from this morning's wind chills. Indianapolis picked up 1 to 3 inches from Friday's clipper, with dangerous wind chills today. The warm-up arrives by Tuesday, pushing highs into the 40s and 50s, before precipitation returns with the Valentine's Day system. The plains are about to steal the national weather headline. Starting Monday, February 9th, the ridge that has been dominating the western United States all winter finally pushes east of the Continental Divide. And when it does, temperatures across the Central Plains are going to go through the roof. Omaha could hit the mid-60s by Monday afternoon. Des Moines is looking at similar numbers. Sioux Falls, South Dakota might reach 60 in early February. Record highs are absolutely on the table across eastern Nebraska, Iowa, and southeast South Dakota. Further south, Kansas City and Oklahoma City could see 70s. Dallas and the southern plains could flirt with 80 deg. Little Rock and Shreveport might push into the mid-70s. Even Wichita and Tulsa could approach the 70-degree mark. This is going to feel like someone opened a door to April in the middle of February. But here is the catch. That warmth slams into a wall when it hits the trough parked over the northwest Atlantic. The East Coast will not feel the full benefit. So while Omaha is basking in springtime air, New York and Boston could still be grinding through the 30s. That collision zone between the surging warmth and the lingering cold is a breeding ground for storm development, which is exactly why the Valentine's Day system has so much potential. The Ohio Valley and Appalachian region is where the snow has been most impressive this period. West Virginia's higher elevations have been stacking up incredible totals all winter, with the mountains seeing 8 to 12 in from the latest round alone. Ski resorts across West Virginia and Western Virginia are thriving. Pittsburgh saw 2 to 4 INs of snow and is dealing with wind chills around 10 to 15 below zero today. The city warms into the low 30s by Tuesday and the 40s by Wednesday. Asheville and the Smoky Mountains in western North Carolina continue to see snow with orographic lift, and the highest peaks in the North Carolina high country have been picking up 4 to 8 in from recent systems. Even the Triad and Charlotte areas of North Carolina saw snow mix in during Friday evening, a reminder of just how far south this cold air has penetrated. The southeast continues to reel from an extraordinary winter. January's storm brought a foot of snow to Charlotte and 6 to Myrtle Beach. Record-breaking cold pushed into Florida with teens in northern Florida, and snow flurries as far south as Tampa. Temperatures across Atlanta, Charlotte, and Raleigh climb back into the 40s and 50s by midweek. But on the warm side of the Valentine's Day storm track, heavy rain and gusty thunderstorms could impact areas from East Texas through the Tennessee Valley and Corollas. The West Coast is the other major story. A potent Pacific storm is bringing much-needed moisture to the Pacific Northwest. Seattle and Portland are looking at 2 to 4 in of rain in the lowlands, with the Cascades picking up 2 feet or more of mountain snow. This is critical because snowpack across the Sierra Nevada and Cascade basins has been running only 50 to 70% of normal. Northern Idaho and western Montana are also seeing significant mountain snow. The NOAA outlook calls for above-normal precipitation across the northern Rockies and Pacific Northwest through mid-February, with a pattern shift driven by a strengthening Madden-Julian oscillation that could finally start to dig into those snowpack deficits. Now, the big picture. The Valentine's Day weekend storm is the event I am watching most closely for February 12th through 16th. Multiple ensembles show a surface low developing along the southern plains and tracking across the Tennessee Valley, or mid-Atlantic. Northwest of that track, winter storm impacts with snow and ice for the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. Southeast of it, heavy rain and potentially severe weather from East Texas through the Tennessee Valley. A shift of just 50 miles in the track could mean the difference between a major snowstorm and a cold rain for I-95 corridor cities. The CPC has posted a slight risk of heavy snow for the Northeast February 14th and 15th, and a slight risk of heavy precipitation for the West Coast through February 18th. The bottom line for February 7th through the 16th is clear. Dangerously cold wind chills this weekend across the Northeast and New England, a potentially record-shattering warm-up across the plains and Midwest by midweek. The West Coast finally getting meaningful precipitation, and a Valentine's Day storm building in the models that could impact tens of millions. Winter 2026 is far from over. Stay warm, stay alert, and I will be right here keeping you updated as all of this unfolds.